I think I would want the visitor to understand what happens in Hajj, why Hajj matters, and why, for so many Muslims, it does clearly change their lives. It clearly, for many of them, does redefine their relationship to God, but also reaffirms their membership of a worldwide community. And I think to understand that, that's the aim of the exhibition.
Neil MacGregor, thank you so much for agreeing to do this short interview, especially for the Salzburg Global Fellowship and the directors of the Salzburg Global Seminar. This is obviously a unique exhibition, and it has many beautiful things in it, but I think it goes beyond being just an aesthetic exercise, and there's an element of cultural diplomacy about it. And I wonder if you could summarize for us what you see as being the main objectives of the exhibition.
Yes, well, we discovered that this is the first exhibition that's ever been put on about Hajj. And we have also, rather in the process, discovered why that is the case. What we wanted to do was explore this phenomenon, which is not only one of the longest historical, cultural, continuous phenomena, but is, I think, one of the means by which Muslims reassert the idea of a worldwide community. It's the one pillar of Islam that non-Muslims can't see and can't participate in. And I think if we're going to try to understand what an Islamic community means, then Hajj is quite important. So we wanted to present it as a world phenomenon, a phenomenon unbroken since 632, but also as a British phenomenon.
You said that you learned why it's never been done before. Can you elaborate on that a bit?
The materials are very complicated because we wanted, of course, to show what the experience of the journey was. I mean, this very dangerous journey on which people expected often to die, which took years, and the evidence to be gathered from West Africa, from East Asia, from the Middle East, from Britain, was very complicated to gather. And that was the first thing, and a great many lenders, a great deal of research all around the world, because obviously we wanted to look at it as a world phenomenon. The greater problem, of course, was how to articulate to a non-Muslim public particularly the rituals of Hajj. What is going on as you circumambulate the Kaaba, as you drink Zamzam water, whatever. So that required a great deal of conversation, discussion. We had an Islamic historian as a curator, but also an English woman, but also a practicing Muslim curator. And she had actually been recently on Hajj, so the two of them together kept it together. But I think to present both a cultural and a religious experience is difficult, and I don't know whether we've managed that.
Well, and this is the British Museum. Is there a message here about the place and the role of Islam in British culture, British public life?
Yes, we wanted to underline the fact that this is now an important element in the spiritual life of a lot of people in our country. Every year, well over 30,000 British people make Hajj, and hundreds of thousands of more hope to. So it seemed we've been looking at religion and society in a series of exhibitions, and this seemed an important one to address, thinking about British society now. And also, I think, a way of allowing non-Muslims to consider what the central tenets of Islam are. Hajj does make that very clear, I think, perhaps clearer than trying to explain what happens at the mosque on Friday.
And have you had feedback from the British Muslim community?
We've had enormously enthusiastic feedback. I mean, firstly, in visitor figures, nearly twice what we'd hoped for. Large numbers of bus groups coming from the Midlands, from Lancashire. That's been very pleasing. And almost more pleasing, very positive commentary from the Arabic press and media in the Middle East.
Of course, your sort of major partner in this exercise is the King Abdulaziz Library in Riyadh.
Yes.
I mean, have your objectives in doing this coincided with theirs, would you say?
I don't know. We wanted to, we of course needed the consent of the King of Saudi Arabia as the custodian of the two holy mosques before we could really put the exhibition on, because we wanted to show so many photographs of Mecca. We were very clear that we wanted to ensure that the choice of objects, the interpretation of objects, remained obviously curatorial. The King Abdul Aziz Library were very helpful in ensuring we got all the permissions we needed, and in securing the loans for us that illustrate that first route from Kufa to Mecca, the Darb Zubaydah, which we wanted to illustrate. So their main role was in securing the consents and the Saudi loans. One of the things we wanted to show, that as well as a great religious experience, this is probably the greatest logistic challenge on the planet happening on an annual basis. And looking at how the Saudi authorities, how all the secular authorities through the centuries have addressed that problem, is one of the themes of the exhibition.
Kufa is, of course, in Iraq. Did you get cooperation from Iraqi authorities as well?
It was impossible, really, to work with Iraqi authorities at the moment in terms of loans. We didn't need to borrow any material from Iraq, but it's difficult at the moment to work with the authorities in Iraq.
And what about the experience of Shia Muslims? Is that covered as well?
That is covered. Fortunately, our co-curator, who is a Sunni, is married to a Shia, and they together made Hajj last year. And they together bought for us the kind of souvenirs that pilgrims can buy at the moment. So we have a sort of time capsule of Hajj souvenirs by a Sunni and a Shia pilgrim of 2010.
So, I mean, do you think what we're seeing here is essentially a Saudi view of the Hajj, or do you think it's more multidimensional?
No, I think it's not at all a Saudi view. As I said, the curatorial choice was entirely here. And I think if you look at the first section particularly, so much of it, of course, is pre-1920. There's a great deal on how the British and the Dutch organised Hajj from India and the Dutch East Indies. There's a great deal about the African roots. No, we were very eager that this should not be the view of any one country, but really how the world has thought about Hajj through the centuries.
Well, thank you very much. That's a wonderful exposition of an exhibition.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.